Parliament where the Goods and Services Tax Bill has been passed, but there is some news coming in. Even though the BJP had issued a whip earlier this morning for all MPs to be present when there were key bills that were being voted on. You're seeing pictures there of the voting for the GST bill after when it was passed, but the Prime Minister was not in Parliament when the GST bill was being passed. He was apparently having lunch. Congress also walked out over procedure over that, but a key reform of the BJP-led government, the GST bill, the Goods and Services Tax Bill, has been passed in the Lok Sabha. Arun Jaitley had spoken extensively on it earlier in the day, and the Congress had also replied to that. Arun Jaitley earlier in the day talking about the GST bill. But Sunil Prabhu joining us on the phone line now. Sunil, the BJP had issued a whip earlier in the day for MPs to be there when there was voting on key bills, but the Prime Minister wasn't there when the GST bill was passed?
That's right. The Prime Minister was not present in the Lok Sabha when an important constitutional amendment bill was taken up for consideration and passage. Apparently, he was preoccupied with the lunch, and an important three-line whip which was sent to all party MPs. It's a huge embarrassment for the present government when an important landmark constitutional amendment which will change the way how India's taxation system works. The Prime Minister, of course, not being present on the floor of the House when this was taken up, even though a message was sent to him by floor managers and party managers. Having said that, the GST has passed its first hurdle in the Lok Sabha. It will now be sent to the Rajya Sabha where it requires passage out there. And of course, a two-third majority is required. The Congress saying as they walked out in the Lok Sabha today about the manner and the procedure in which it was brought, they will continue to ask for greater scrutiny and examination in the Rajya Sabha where it will be taken up. So it's in this backdrop that the GST bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha. Right now, of course, there are certain people, opposition parties, who have moved amendments, who are seeking the clarification, but the sum and substance of the bill has been accepted, and it is good as cleared from the Lok Sabha. But as I explained a short while back, a huge embarrassment for the NDA government, the fact that their Prime Minister wasn't present in the House when this bill, an important legislation, a constitutional amendment bill, was taken up, and he wasn't present on the floor of the House.
As you were talking about it now being referred to a select committee in the Rajya Sabha, Sunil, Arun Jaitley spoke extensively on that in the Lok Sabha just before the voting and urging everyone not to send it to that select committee since it had already been in one.
What is it?
That's right. Arun Jaitley's point has been that this is not a new bill. This has gone through and this will be discussed in the standing committee. But clearly, the convention, as the Congress President Sonia Gandhi pointed out, is that it should go through the scrutiny of a standing committee. And it is in this backdrop that the decision has been taken to once again refer it to a standing committee for further consideration and passage. So it's in this backdrop that the government deciding to once again refer this once to the Rajya Sabha to a committee where it will be examined and discussion with all stakeholders about the changes that have been made before a final decision of taking it up for passage.
Sunil, just a clarification there. Are you saying that the government has agreed to send it to the select committee in the Rajya Sabha?
The government really does not have the numbers in the Rajya Sabha, so it really doesn't have a say at all on this subject. It's clearly you require two-third majority. It will not be able to pass the bill. Two-third majority for so on Lok Sabha, the Congress walked out. That will of course be reflected in the Rajya Sabha. Without that mandate support, it will be virtually impossible for it to get the required consent and passage.
Sunil Prabhu on the GST bill being passed in the Lok Sabha, which will go to a select committee in the Rajya Sabha since the government doesn't have the numbers. And this is Arun Jaitley rebutting the opposition's earlier roadblocks just before the bill was passed in the Lok Sabha.
There'll be a seamless transfer of goods and services
the whole country, which is 1/6 of world's population, would become a single market. I don't want to call it a UPA or an NDA bill, because this has been a collective effort of government after government. Went to the standing committee. The standing committee discussed it for 2.5 years. Now, most of the changes which you have mentioned by Mr. Moyle were discussed by the standing committee. A bill is not a dancing instrument that it will jump from standing committee to standing committee. Once I accept the recommendation of the standing committee, what is the rationale of sending it back to reconsider that recommendation again to a standing committee?